Sir, you were the first one to say we should get to it, so I'm calling you next.
Tom Morrissey from Cheshire, Connecticut, and congratulations on being elected.
My mother does remind me weekly that you wanted us, remember? Things are crazy.
My mother would have been proud of you. My issue has to do with Delta Airlines, and it's nothing in comparison to what this gentleman and yourself were just expressing. It had to do with miles, where you can't use them after you accumulate them. And I, was in a battle with both American Express and Delta for months now, and getting absolutely nowhere. And so I called your office a few weeks ago, and ended up speaking to your chief of staff, Julie Sweet. And I explained to her the situation at hand, and asked if there was anything that could be done on my behalf. Either a phone call from somebody in your office or whatever. And she said she would have somebody in the local office contact me. I didn't know, I questioned that only because of the issue itself, not being local. But Ms. Sweet suggested she said she was going to have somebody call me. Well, nearly 2 weeks went by and I didn't hear from anybody. So I was able to get a hold of it. If anybody wants to know this, Richard Anderson he's the CEO of Delta. He has an email address, richard.anderson@delta.com.
That's what you need.
And so I started my own campaign, if you will, trying to get it. I also got a hold of Chenault, the CEO of American Express. I found out his fax number, etc. And eventually, I became too much of a pain in the neck, and they called me and they gave me the miles. But in the meantime, what happened, and I think is an issue that I'm sure can be resolved, and that was I didn't get any help from your office. And about a week or so ago, somebody called me from your office after not hearing from anybody for 2 weeks, and left a voicemail. And I couldn't distinguish the person's name on the voicemail. So a couple of days later, I called your office, and I said to the woman who answered the phone was Courtney in your office. I'm sure you know these people. And I said, somebody called me, but a woman, and left a message that apparently Ms. Sweet had explained part of my problem, and she wanted to address it. And Courtney said she'd look into it and get back to me. The next day she called me back, and she said to me that she couldn't find out who the person was in your office. Now, she told me, I asked how many people are there. She said 6 women. I said, well, it was definitely a woman. And she definitely called me. And she definitely left the message.
All right, well, I will check on that. I
One
think,
other thing then.
Okay.
I asked Courtney for the district manager's name, and she refused to give it to me. I asked for it 3 times, and she refused to give it to me.
Well, Russell's right here, so he's out in the hall.
Right, but the point that we're making, okay, because you alluded to it before, of the problems that we're having, citizens are having, addressing their legislators, that accessibility is really a nice word, and it sounds great, until one of us try to get a hold of you, in this case, to get some kind of help. And it didn't come. And the issue is not that complex, as this gentleman alluded to. I mean, I wouldn't expect somebody to pick up the phone and resolve that. But in my situation, even if it couldn't be resolved by you, if there was an attempt to do that, I would have been pleased. That didn't happen. And then when I simply asked the question, and I left, by the way, after I got through being denied this information as to who the district manager is in your office, I called Ms. Sweet, this was maybe 4 or 5 days ago, and left a message on her voicemail and said, I don't know who I'm supposed to talk to. She's never gotten back to me. And the irony of me being here is 2 days later I got a voicemail from you saying this meeting was taking place. But I think that needs to be corrected. And by the way, there's a letter I posted to you 4 days ago, and I've got a copy of it. I'll give it to you before you leave. But I think we all need to know that when we do call your office, that something gets done.
No, and that's very fair. And I think, I've had issues exactly of the nature that you're talking about. And when I checked on them, this was a number of years ago, there are no federal rules that apply to this. I think, and this is something we can check and follow up, I believe that the consumer, there's a new consumer sort of financial protection agency that may be able to address this, and that's one of the things. Frankly, during the shutdown, we couldn't reach anybody to check. I'm not making excuses, I'm just saying that during that, some things we couldn't, that's the kind of research project that's hard to follow up on when only essential people are in it and we're dealing with folks whose bills aren't getting paid and getting thrown out of houses. So we should, definitely will follow up. I'm glad that you were able to get satisfaction from Amex and from Delta.
Temporarily. I did. I don't know if they.
No, well, they're not gonna change their policies, and I think the fine print is deep buried. Their lawyers bury those fine print telling you kind of have no recourse once they get expired. But it is the sort of issue, though, that I think that is very fair to raise with and to see if that's gonna be part of the jurisdiction of the new Consumer Financial Protection Agency. Because it has to do with banking and all kinds of things, and frankly, a lot of those credit card fine print issues are a serious issue, and they're tied with miles, and people get enticed to use them on a promise that you can use them. That's a very fair point, and I'm sorry that people did not get back to you, and it was raised with me, and I didn't have any ideas other than looking at consumer financial protection. We didn't find any laws that were available, but someone should have gotten back to you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry about that.